Hello survivors, and welcome to another Walking Dead Road to Survival video. And in this video we're going to be taking a first look at Gold Mythic Anniversary Glenn, who is going to be a character reward to an upcoming 8th anniversary event in RTS. Now visually, Glenn looks amazing. On the right hand side you can see he's got that riot shield and the pistol with the extended magazine. The riot shield is transparent and this is such a nice little touch. I like the visuals quite a lot. As you can see, he's got that pistol and he's in full riot gear, which did actually occur during the storyline. On the left hand side you can see it in a bit better detail. There's kind of this like infinity sign slash 8 as iconography here, and it is of course because it's going to be the 8th anniversary of RTS. But in the background you can see there is a little teaser at another character in full riot gear, potentially a tough character. Maybe he's going to be coming in the future as well. Now we'll check out the stats. At level 1440, limit break 3, Glenn has a massive 39,686 attack, 22,047 defense and 26,457 HP. He is an alert character. He's going to be of the support role, Gold Mythic of course, and he's going to be the first character of a brand new allegiance, Member of the Prisoners. Now first up we're going to be looking at Anniversary Glenn's Adrenaline Rush, and it is called Burnt Shielding. Has got a recharge rate of 66 AP, which is pretty normal for an attack team character, and that's seemingly what Glenn's going to be. Deal 10% of this fighter's attack stat as burn damage for 2 turns to a line of enemies if they have bonus HP. Deal 600% damage to that line of enemies. So obviously the first part, the 10% of this fighter's attack stat as burn damage, is going to be reasonably high. I think you might be able to get this character up to somewhere in the region of 100 to 140k attack depending on the surrounding teammates, and that's generally going to mean 10 to 14k burn for 2 turns. This obviously can be manipulated afterwards and maybe get bonuses depending on what teams you have him in. The second half is the only guarantee. That's always going to occur no matter what. The burn only happens if a character has bonus HP, and it's kind of funny because it will obviously bypass that bonus HP, whereas the deal 600% will always hit the bonus HP first. The first part comes in with the burn before the damage does too, so it's not gonna have any effect there. So it's not too bad. It's just gonna do initial hit with an extra potential bit of burn. Now as we start the fight we can see that the defense team has a slither, a very small amount of bonus HP on the lower characters. And if we do the Adrenaline Rush, we should do significant damage against these characters and burn them. The burn will come in first, so the burn should pass over almost instantly if those characters are taken out, of which they are. And then you can see the burn damage is just put to the side. The central character will get that burn. If we went for the central character, it'd be completely random where it went. Obviously you want to try and use line attacks against the characters in a row. Just better that way. So if we just jump into the upgrades, you can see at grade 2 it gets an upgrade where it deals 5% of this fighter's attack stat as burn damage for 1 turn to a line of enemies if they have bonus HP. And then at grade 4 it gets a boost of 200% damage, so it goes from 400% up to 600%. Then moving into the limit breaks, at LB1 it gets plus 1 turn on the burn duration, going up to 2 turns of 5%, and then at LB3 it gets plus 5% burn, so it goes up to 10% burn for 2 turns. Now I think this rush is okay on paper. I will say I rushed extremely early on in the fight without having to command Glenn at all because of other parts of his kit and how they work, and he also has parts of his kit where he can guarantee the enemy are going to get bonus HP in certain situations. This is very nice for this Adrenaline Rush, getting that extra burn on top as well. This rush is going to be an optional usage very early on in the fight, which is actually kind of cool. You obviously can manipulate the attack stat quite heavily. You can get characters that give out attack buffs early on in the fight, and that will obviously boost this Adrenaline Rush for Glenn. Based on his specialist, he will be doing his Adrenaline Rush quite often by the looks of things. This is also a deal damage, so it cannot crit and it cannot proc weapons. So there's no way to block this damage other than things like the obvious Guardian shields, so on and so forth. So yeah, not too bad a rush, but it gets better based on the other things that are going to be in Glenn's kit just from testing it out. Like I said, instant rush, and that's partly because of his special skill and I think probably his passives. But before we move on and check those, we're going to check out his signature move, and it is called Powerful Defense. It has an initial cooldown of turn 1, cooldown of 2 turns, number of uses unlimited. This fighter and Anniversary Maggie get Guardian Shield, deal 25% of the targeted enemy's defense as damage to a line of enemies. This is hilarious, for one. Obviously the first half is giving us the obvious. The character in the background, it is going to be an anniversary character as well, and it's going to be Maggie, and it looks like they're going to synergize together, and Glenn is an attack team character, so you'd assume potentially Maggie could be too. They'll both get a Guardian Shield, which is kind of nice, but it'll also do significant damage against characters that have massive defense buffs. Those 400% defense buffs, and characters that have potentially thousands of defense at that point. He's going to be doing 25% of that defense rating to a line of enemies. That is actually crazy. And what's funny is, I don't think their defense rating will reduce the damage they take from this. It's going to work exactly how the defense team characters, where they take their own defense rating and do damage. So finally, the defense teams are going to get a bit of their own medicine by the looks of things. Now here we are on turn 1, and I'm going to optionally use the signature move because I can rush straight away. It's kind of nice because it gives you the option. If you come up against characters with massive defense rating, it could possibly be more worthwhile to do that. Against these lower defense rating characters, maybe not, and we'll find out why. I'll do the signature move, and we'll do 8,000 damage to a line of enemies. If you remember what I did last time, it was closer to 40,000. In this case, it would have been better to have done my Adrenaline Rush, just because we are basing it on my own attack stat. I know that's going to give me a better overall multiplier. However, if we were to attack a character that has defense rating boosted off of turn 1, like Sebastian Milton here with the 400% defense buff, we should be doing significantly more damage. His defense shouldn't reduce this, and it obviously will go to a line of enemies. So if we do the signature move, instead of it being 8k, it's going to be 83k in this case. And then even better, we could potentially, if we wanted to, command turn 1 to try and do some damage to a different line of enemies. Obviously, if you boost the attack stat on Glenn, defense down, all the good stuff, you're going to get more than 86,000 attack, which is what he's got because it's 10,000 off his attack stat in burn. The potential here is really good. But what's really good about his signature move too is that it's really good at punching up against stronger teams regardless of the level of your character. If you're a very new player to the game or a returning player, you might not have as high lieutenant system, for instance, but because it doesn't base the damage on this character's stats but the enemies, his signature move could do massive damage even if he's completely unleveled, which is actually kind of amazing. Now checking out the upgrades, you can see at grade 3 he gets an upgrade where he deals 15% of the targeted enemy's defense as damage to a line of enemies. At grade 5 it gets -1 to starting cooldown, so it goes to turn 1. I'd say this is obviously quite important, and if you can boost the damage even further, at limit break 2 it gets boosted from 15% of the target's enemies defense rating up to 25%, and that is actually pretty significant. Obviously, as you saw in that case with kind of like a base Sebastian, there was no defense leader there either, it was a HP leader, so it wasn't as high as it could go. He took over 80k damage, and that's completely based on Sebastian's stats and build, nothing to do with Glenn. I love the fact that now I have the option to do an attack based one with the rush or an enemy defense based one with the signature move on turn 1. I didn't have to do anything to get that rush to happen, and with a command I could get them both to happen if I so wish. So this looks pretty good, and I like the fact, like I said before, defense teams are going to get a little bit of a taste of their own medicine when they've been doing this damage based on their own defense on turn 1 signature moves. It's kind of everywhere. Now you're going to be able to do it back to them. This is actually really cool. I like Glenn's signature move here a lot, and I like that it's good for pretty much anybody because it's based on the power of the team you come up against. Big thumbs up from me for this particular signature move for sure. Now next up we're going to move on to Anniversary Glenn's mythic abilities. These are his passive skills, of course. Now he is a support character, so he is going to have cunning, but this will not proc on his rush or his signature move, and those are the things that are going to be happening pretty much all the time. Because he won't basic attack too often, this isn't going to be too great for him when he attacks, but it could work if he gets attacked. But you know, I don't know too many on attack blocking potential when it comes to weapon. You know, weapons on defense teams are generally on defense, and he already avoids them based on the fact that he deals damage. So cunning isn't that big a deal, and probably not really worth upgrading. But cunning does affect other things. He is a support character, so he could potentially get controlled by someone like Princess. However, the next passive is called Evasive Focus. At the start of each wave, 100% chance this fighter gets camouflage and focus for the rest of combat. The camouflage is a nice little bonus. It's going to stop him taking damage himself. He potentially, could have other characters give it camouflage in the team. Maybe not to everybody. Maybe there's characters that only give it to a couple. I think Dale gives it to everybody but himself, so unfortunately that's not going to work. But it's mainly the focus here which is going to stop someone like Princess's taunt on support characters. Even though she's a control character, the focus actually completely blocks out the potential of the taunt working. Now taunt can still get applied, but the focus blocks it, and the focus can get stolen away, and if it is stolen away it will not reapply because it's only at the beginning of the wave. This is just something to note. The next one is called Amplifier. When performing their specialist skill, this fighter gets plus 50% of their max AP. This is obviously pretty nice because, like I was saying before, he's getting his rush off of turn 1, and this is because he's basically getting 100% AP off of turn 1, and that is obviously really, really nice. His specialist skill, I believe, gives 50%, which we'll check out later, and he gets a boost on Amplifier, so every turn he can rush if he can proc his specialist skill, which I believe is just him having max HP, 100% max HP. The last passive is called Tip Top Shape. At the start of each turn, this fighter heals for 40% of their max HP for 2 turns. What's going to be interesting about this one is, does this happen before the potential proc of his passive? We'll have to check this out. Okay, so we're going to test things out here, and what we're going to do is I'm going to do a basic attack against Glenn here with Rick, and you'll see why I'm going to use Rick in a second. We're going to use a basic attack here against this character. If he does his rush, obviously he gets the proc of the HP heal before the specialist skill would proc, and it's fine. But if it doesn't happen, he'll do his signature move and he'll just be sitting there with 100% AP. I'll do a basic attack. He loses a bit of damage, and as you can see, he is not sitting there on 100% AP. Now this time, what I'm going to do is I'm going to remove that Guardian Shield, and then I'm going to rush him. Now Rick has AP down at the beginning of the turn, so what should happen is he should lose the AP here and then potentially gain it back with his own specialist. Let's see, the AP would go down and then the basic attack comes in. So unfortunately the heal is not proccing first, it's proccing afterwards, which is a shame. It is definitely a shame. But you did see Glenn sitting there with that focus and that camo for the rest of combat. That of course can be ransacked away or effectively removed from the enemy, but there aren't too many ransack weaponry on defense team characters, and of course, again, there aren't that many more meta relevant characters that remove focus, but that could definitely come back around. If we look at the grade 1 upgrade here, you can see it gets the first half of Evasive Focus at the start of each wave. 50% chance this fighter gets camouflage and focus for the rest of combat. At grade 2, he gets the first half of Cunning, which I said isn't going to be that important for Glenn here. Then at grade 3, he gets the second half of Evasive Focus, where at the start of each wave, he gets 100% chance to get camouflage and focus for the rest of combat. When we get onto grade 4, because he gets the first half of Amplifier, when performing the specialist skill, this fighter gets 20% of their max AP. This is nice that it's not a chance to occur, it just is a little bit of a boost. This means based on certain aspects, if he's been attacked and he's managed to heal up somehow by a teammate or something, it's going to still give him the AP, or if he has bonus HP, of course. That's actually kind of nice. Then at grade 5, he gets the first half of Tip Top Shape. At the start of each turn, this fighter heals for 20% of their max HP for 2 turns. We did see how that works. It's a little bit disappointing, but that's just kind of the way it is. You can see it as something. It's nice if he needs to heal up, you know, underneath the bonus HP, but he isn't going to be, you know, obviously proccing his special skill in that occurrence. Like I say, it's a little bit disappointing. When we look at the grade Limit Break 1 upgrade, it gets Cunning 2. Again, not so important for Glenn here. Limit Break 2 comes in where Amplifier 2 comes in, and it makes it 50% of his max AP stacks with that special skill. We will look at the special skill later, but I think that just basically means he gets 100% of his max AP at the beginning of the turn if his special skill actually procs, and at the start of a fight he always has that proc. That's just kind of the way it goes. And at LB3, Tip Top Shape 2 comes in, where at the start of each turn this fighter heals for 20% of their max HP for 2 turns. So I think these passives are okay. They're not too bad at all. Obviously, Amplifier is great. That's going to be really nice to get that rush off nice and early, or at least have an option. As I showed you before, you could use the signature move, you could use the rush in the right setup if you wanted to. Why not both? You know, there is potential. Some of the other passives, unfortunately, not so much. Cunning isn't really that great for him. There isn't too many that would be that great, honestly. Potentially, you could say Medic, so that self-heal gave a little bit of bonus HP, but not really. Control would make it so that burn would apply better. Again, not really. And then Damage Roll would make it so that he did no extra thing, because only on his basic attack. So there isn't really many roles that would actually be able to affect Glenn here. I guess Cunning from the support role is probably the best, even if it isn't that great in itself. But that's just it on the passives. It is what it is. Definitely the nicest thing on his kit so far is going to be that signature move. But obviously this Amplifier plus the special skill is going to be a nice little team up as well. So yeah, not terrible, but not necessarily a requirement to like jump in and upgrade every single one of these passives to max, which is another little bit of a thumbs up from me, because obviously, again, not everyone has huge amounts of resources to be able to do this, and he is pretty decent, like I said, at just punching up against stronger teams. So yeah, like I say, not too bad at all. Now we'll check out the specialist skill, because we have been seeing it occur on plenty of the kill-ups. We've obviously been talking about it with the passives, and it is Amped. It's going to get a boost from the Amplifier passive he's got as well. It says at the start of this fighter's turn, if they are 100% HP, that's max HP, they get 50% of their max AP. If this occurs, Amplifier will also occur, meaning he'll just gain 100% of his max AP. So even if he's at 0 AP, 0 out of 66, or even if he's 0 out of whatever it would be if he was slowed, it would still get up to 100%. This is great. There also obviously a big downside to this. He hasn't got any sort of exhaust resist in his kit. You're going to definitely need to get that on this character, because against certain teams, characters, you know, exhaust can come in early and he'll definitely one-shot himself in that, you know, case. He'll take whatever it is, 7,000 exhaust damage or whatever the exhaust damage is for every 10% of his max AP. That's 70,000 damage. Glenn cannot live like this. He cannot live like this. But you could obviously guard against this. Paragon mod exhaust resist, 90% resist. That suddenly becomes to quite decent usage for Glenn here. But I kind of like the combo between this and obviously that passive. And then the fact that it gives you such massive choice between the rush and the signature move of turn 1. I really like that kind of like detail there. And I think it's going to be quite a fun character to use, like I say, against teams that you would normally just see and just go, yikes. He's potentially going to be a much better option than some other more like percentage damage dealers. Now Glenn does actually have an attached weapon, and it is Anniversary Glenn's Riot Pistol. It has got 40% attack, 40% HP, improved self-healing when killing a target, a 60% chance to regain 100% HP, regain 50% bonus HP, and get 50% defense for 2 turns. And the last slot says enemy bonus HP. At the start of each wave, all fast and strong enemies get 1 bonus HP. Not 1%, just 1 in the singular. That's actually kind of funny. The third slot obviously is decent. If he kills a line of enemies, he's got a good chance of getting that bonus HP back. That's going to protect his main HP, and obviously he'll fully heal if he wasn't already max HP for whatever reason. The last slot is just kind of cool. This isn't just going to be good for Glenn though, but it is of course good for Glenn's rush, because it will still apply the burn almost no matter what, as long as they're fast or strong. But this is going to be an amazing team up, and I mean absolutely amazing team up with Sophia, because if you come up against teams that build themselves to be perfect, no bonus HP, Sophia doesn't necessarily do very well against those teams. But if they've only got 1 bonus HP, she doesn't just do well against that team, she absolutely will annihilate it, because 1 bonus HP will make her passive proc when it comes to doing extra rush damage. But because they've only got 1 bonus HP, they're going to take so much significant more damage, but not have massive pool of bonus HP to protect themselves against it. So it's actually kind of amazing. It's kind of like a reverse Julie, but doing kind of the same deal. Now obviously you can just completely replace this weapon if you so wish. You can try and build Glenn's attack stat up to monumental levels. You could go for that weapon that's in, I believe, the bit store, where he gets attack and 20% attack to self. He can't crit, to make that rush do even more damage. It's up to you, but this isn't too bad. It really depends on the teams that Glenn's coming up against. If he's coming up against characters that aren't strong and fast, then definitely replace this weapon. So this is Gold Mythic Glenn, the Road to Survival 8th Anniversary event reward, and I will be honest, I think he's kind of cool. I really think he's kind of cool. I like how he works. You can amplify his damage output massively on his Adrenaline Rush if you wish. He's always going to be doing good damage on his signature move based on the enemy team having good defense. I like that potential a lot. He will rarely do basic attacks, that's why that weapon doesn't have any AP modifiers, because of the fact that he is amped and he gets amplifier in his passives. He's actually a pretty nice, cool character, and I think he'll have some usage for quite a lot of players, honestly, against very particular teams. Strong and fast, we're in a lot of trouble when it comes to that weapon. Like, let's think about teams that are full strong. Denise, if you manage to, get exhaust resist on this character and he doesn't have any problems, those teams don't have massive bonus HP a lot of the time. So him just giving them all 1 bonus HP means that someone like Sophia could come in and nuke. Obviously Sophia's going to have to run into trouble with Princess, but there's definitely some options there. I kind of like this potential. And yeah, he's an alert character too. I don't think he's like the alert character that free-to-play need, but an alert damage dealer has been kind of well overdue for free-to-play. So this is kind of, again, like a little thumbs up from me. Do tell me what you think though on this character and potential teasers for an upcoming character. Any thoughts in the comments down below? I want to thank you very much for tuning in, and as always, keep on surviving, guys. Keep on surviving.